Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Trademark Sports Podcast. This week is Magic Round edition. So if you are hyped for Magic Round, obviously type Magic Round into the comments of the YouTube video. Leave a thumbs up while you're here and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Drop a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts if you are new over there as well. It's all support is greatly appreciated. We've got a big episode today. We've got a lot to talk about. News from today. Massive backflip news, and then obviously chat a bit of Magic Round stuff from last week, and then get in and answer your questions. So let's basically crack straight on into it. David Fifita to the Gold Coast, staying at the Gold Coast Titans until 2026 at the bare minimum. Huge backflip news coming out. Like, it's about time the Titans got the rub of the green. It's a win for the little guys. Obviously, the biggest backflip of, up to this date anyway, has been Jalen Cherry Evans backflipping from the Titans deal. So it's nice that the Titans get rub of the green for once. Huge news. The Roosters as well, Nick Politis saying they've withdrawn the offer after David Fifita had some cold feet. I think from everything I saw was that he re-signed with the Titans. I'm recording this on Wednesday the 15th. Pretty sure on Tuesday the 14th at 10:30 at night, Fifita re-signed, and then Roosters this morning are saying that they've withdrawn their offer. So don't know how much I believe about that. I think it's just Nick Politis and everything trying to cover their asses, not cover their asses, but sort of take away the embarrassment of the fact that Fifita chose the Titans over the Roosters, which sort of shows you where the Roosters might be at the moment, I think. And then at the same time, Angus Crichton's been left in the dust about where his future is at the Roosters. So it's interesting to see what development comes from that. I also think if you look at a bit of the human element for the David Fifita situation, he's obviously dating, in a long-term relationship with Shaylee Bent, who is a Gold Coast Titans NRLW player, and I reckon she might have been like, I don't really want to move back down to Sydney because she used to play for the Dragons. Well, not before moving up there. I reckon they enjoy their life on the Gold Coast. She's very good friends with all the NRLW players on the Titans if you follow them on Instagram. So I reckon she was like, I don't really want to move. I'm staying here. And Fifita was like, really? Well, I don't really want to live 6-hour drive away from you. So I reckon that's got something to do with it. They're talking about all these family reasons. This is one of the reasons why he's staying. I reckon that's it. Okay, throughout the week, I saw Benny Elias say that the Blues are going to win Origin 3-0, to which even Braithen Astor, a Blues man through and through, was like, come on, man. Really? We are back against the wall. Injuries galore. Let's focus on winning one game first. Let's try and win the first game, then we can worry about winning a second, a 3-0, maybe. Ridiculous stuff, I think, from Benny Elias. I know he's trying to back the boys and just showing a bit of patriotism, but man, it does is it just puts pressure on them. Because it's going to be again the same media beat up of Maroons aren't favourites. Maroons are 100% absolute the favourites for the Origin this year, and don't let any Queenslanders tell you they're not. It's bullshit. So that's my thoughts on Benny Elias saying that the Blues are going to win 3-0. Yucky. All right, now the NRL at the moment, we're not actually experiencing an injury crisis, but it certainly feels like it. So, this is all stats from NRL Physio. If you're not following him or anything, you definitely should be. So, stats at the moment are, we currently have 11 players across the NRL that are out injured with hamstring injuries. And a total of 17 this season going to round 11. And usually, the average for a whole season is 23.3 injuries. Hamstring injuries, and that's since 2019 or whatever. Since basically the new rules came in and the speed of the game's been faster and more fatigue has been in the game. Now that's crazy that we're only 6 soft tissue hamstring injuries away from the average for a season, and we're going into round 11, so we're basically a third of the way through the year. It's quite concerning. The other thing is, I think I saw, we're not actually having more injuries this season than other times, but what I think is definitely influencing how we feel about these injuries is who the injury is happening to. So, when you look at, we're going to get into it a little bit in a second anyway, all the outs for Magic Round, but it's because there's so many high like marquee players and that sort of thing that are currently injured, and makes you realize, geez, there's so many injuries. Like this guy's injured, this guy's injured, this guy's injured. So makes you pay attention to it a little bit more. And I think that's why everyone's sort of going like, geez, there's so many injuries in the NRL at the moment. And it's just because like you could probably make a starting 13 that could win the comp out of players that are injured at the moment. I think going to Magic Round, there's like 10 first choice halfbacks that are injured or carrying injuries. Nuts. Speaking of Magic Round, going into this weekend, we're going to actually effectively name it Abracadabra Round here, because I'm not sure how much actual magic is going to be on display in Magic Round due to just the sheer amount of talent that will be sitting on the sidelines. So for Magic Round this weekend, we are without Nathan Cleary, Tom Trbojevic, Kalen Ponga, Sean Johnson, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, Adam Reynolds, Cameron Murray, Mitch Moses, Tom Flegler, Jason Saab, Jerome Hughes, AJ Brimson, Ryan Pappenhausen, and of course the Dragons. So basically all the good players in the comp are out now. So there's like just so many outs, and it's a great opportunity for the next level guys to come through and like make that step up for probably the most viewed regular season round for the year, I'd assume. Certainly the round that has the most eyes and attention on it, like at the game, and just the most hype and around it, that sort of thing. So maybe apart from Vegas this year, probably might have had a bit bit more viewers to it. But I think if you're these guys like Daniel Atkinson, Josh Rogers, even like Tane Tuapiki, who else we got that's going to be coming in, like David Armstrong. Let's have like just the Rabbitohs in general. Blaze Talangi at the Eels. Like those guys that are coming in and replacing these big names. It's the opportunity for, if you play well, scouts looking everywhere, left, right, centre, like this weekend. Yes, I know they're going to be watching most games anyway, but it's sort of like, yes, it's Magic Round, but it's a bigger stage in a sense. Like it's a more built up kind of game. So I think it's a good opportunity for those guys to really show their worth within the NRL and just get people talking, basically. Like word of mouth, whispers. It's a great thing in rugby league. But look, I'm super excited for Magic Round. Wish I was going. If you guys are going, stay safe, have fun. But most importantly, look, it's not going to be as fun this week because the Dragons aren't there. For me personally, I think it's kind of taken a bit of the magic out of Magic Round for me. But like, let me know who I should be going for instead. Probably the Warriors. Would be one of my favorite teams forever growing up. Probably like a second team, I guess you could say. But yeah, very excited to watch all the games this upcoming Magic Round. Speaking of Magic Round, let's just do the tips for it. So first off, we've got Raiders versus Dogs. Raiders have obviously been dropping off since no Jamal Fogarty, which is so understandable. He'd been playing some really, really good footy for that side before he was injured. I think just without that leader to get him around the park, they're just losing their way a little bit. Obviously have a very strong forward pack against the Bulldogs, who have hit some form recently. There's guys that like you can see that what they're trying to do at the Bulldogs is coming together, which is great if you're a Bulldogs fan. Certainly something that you've been looking forward to for a little while. And I think like I think Raiders are 7th, Bulldogs are 9th, so pretty level pegging at the moment. I think Bulldogs will be looking to still like take a scalp of a team that's sort of around their level and like imprint themselves within the competition as a team that's certainly mid-table, but can give it to those teams that are in and around the same area, and then sort of have be competitive against the top teams, but smash the bottom teams and be like go neck and neck with those teams around them. And the second game we have on Friday night is going to be Manly having one of their home games at Suncorp against the Broncos. Probably one of the more stupid, like fine franchise decisions, I think, from the Manly. Obviously, they're making a lot of money out of the deal, but hasn't been good for them on the field. Broncos win this one. Obviously, Manly with no Trbojevic. It's just going to be a hit in their confidence. Tolu Kula at fullback, I do like. I think he's a fantastic player, and at fullback, especially towards the end of last year when Turbo was out, he really shone there. But Broncos, like even with Adam Reynolds out, still a very good side. I don't think they're as good without Adam Reynolds, but it's Magic Round, and you've got a guy like Reece Walsh there. Anything's possible. They could put 60 on him. Then we have the Titans versus the Knights. Titans looking better and better every single week. And then the Knights, who are playing some pretty good footy without Kalen Ponga, winning a few games in a row. It's going to be a pretty good game, pretty tight contest, I think. But I will go the Knights in this one, just given to the sheer amount of outs the Titans have. Like even now with AJ Brimson on the sidelines again. Chris Randall and Sam Verrills in the halves is pretty uninspiring, I'm going to be honest. Then it's Sharks versus Roosters. Game of the round, absolutely. Roosters in red-hot form attacking wise. I think they scored 140 points or something in the last 3 rounds. Honestly, nuts. Bearded Walker is an absolute joke. The Sharkies, however, though, went down to Melbourne and beat the Storm without Nicho Hynes. That is huge. I don't think enough is being said about that. I think they are the real deal this year. And I'm going to tip them just because I think they're the form team at the moment. But Roosters, absolutely, with their form at the moment, is probably going to be their toughest challenge that they've faced so far this season. So let's see how they go with that one. Hopefully Nicho Hynes is fit solely for my Supercoach team. Then we have the Rabbitohs versus the Cowboys. I kind of want to tip the Rabbits with this one, to be honest. They've got a very good history in Magic Round. Cowboys are just so uninspiring. I just can't get around them at the moment, to be honest. Very good, both very good teams on paper. Both playing very below average football for what they should be. Both teams defensively aren't great. Both teams have a lot of attacking flair and weapons. So hopefully, an entertaining, high-scoring fixture. But I have gone the Cowboys just because of their recent form. Like, it is a bit better. I think even though I can say that, but let's have a quick look at the ladder. So the Rabbits in the last 5 rounds are obviously 0-4 because of the bye in there. And the Cowboys are 0-5. So I say the Cowboys' form's been better. Has it actually? Not necessarily. But given the situation at the moment, the Cowboys probably should be winning this one. That's why I've gone for that. But if the Rabbitohs win, won't be surprised. Then we have the Warriors versus the Penrith Panthers. No Cleary for the Panthers, obviously, but the Warriors also without Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Sean Johnson, and that's enough for me to take the Penrith Panthers there, because even without Cleary, they're still just such a star-studded team, and, well, probably still the best team in the comp. So, Panthers win that one there. Then on Sunday, Storm versus the Eels. Storm win that. Eels without Mitch Moses do look a little bit lost, and they desperately want him to come back. Storm's a Storm. Still a very good team, even though they lost last week. No Jerome Hughes again, but that is what it is. And then Tigers versus the Dolphins. The poor Tigers started the season well, but they're just so inexperienced. Again, they are without Aiden Caesar this weekend. Like, they're just... The lack of experience in this spot, apart from Coruscant, is sort of hurting them a little bit. You got Lockie Garvin and Jaden Sullivan in the halves, and then Jape Simpkin off the bench. That's not too bad, but I just think you look at it, it's just very, very young. And that's going to be good for them in the future, I think. But for right now, it does hurt them a little bit. And the Dolphins look pretty red hot, to be honest. Like, they're still in 4th, and they've had so many outs. Hammer's back this weekend, which is massive for them. And yeah, like the fact you can have Trey Fuller, who's been one of those informed players in the comp, just chilling on the bench, says a lot about their position at the moment. And so, yeah, that's my tips for this weekend. Bulldogs, Broncos, Knights, Sharks, Cowboys, Penrith, Storm, and the Dolphins. Now, let's get into your questions. There's a few of them this week. So we'll get into them. First off, from Lucas_Macca. He said, thoughts on the Gerringong boys in flag for the Dragons. Now, for those who don't know, that is Wes Pring is in that squad. You've also got Hayden Buchanan, Nick Quinn, Ashton Ward. Let's actually have a look at who got named this weekend, and we'll go through all those. Jack Quine, Isaac Lawton. They're honestly littered throughout it. Hamish Stewart as well. Of course, they're all guns. First and foremost, coming from 1 or 2 age groups, it's pretty cool. And just seeing them go well, like, I think there's a lot of really good Dragons players in that side as well. So it's going to be interesting to see who gets a run for the most part. But look, there's certainly a couple like your Hamish Stewart, your Hayden Buchanans and that sort of thing that you're looking towards. Probably playing a fair bit of cup towards the end of the year. And then in the next couple of years playing a bit of NRL footy, which is really exciting for them. And pretty cool for Gerringong Football Club to have so many juniors playing rep footy and that sort of thing at the moment. But look, I don't want to speak them too much. Let their footy do the talking. Let the boys. They've all got the bye this week, so there you go. But from last week's team, you've had, so this is all from the same footy club. You have Nick Quinn, Hayden Buchanan, Ashton Ward, Hamish Stewart, Isaac Lawton. Yeah, all played last weekend, so that's pretty cool. But But yeah, let their development and their play do the talking. If you're interested in them, go have a look at some Jersey Flag Cup highlights, and yeah, you'll see why they're so rated. Now, second question is from Jackson _ FUDE, food. And he says, does Sewer stay with the Saints? I'd love him to. I am very, very worried about Wayne Bennett going back to the Rabbitohs. I think that might spell the end of Jaden Sewer at the Dragons. We obviously do have a lot of salary cap room to offer him a really good deal. Probably a bit more coin than the Rabbits can offer him. But we'll see whether he's well, that's enough to get him to re-sign. Obviously, his life at the Dragons hasn't been great until this season. He's really recaptured his 2021 form. But yeah, I certainly am one that I'm not really holding out that much hope for him to come and re-sign for the Dragons, if I'm honest. But I would absolutely love him to. He's been one of my favourite players, certainly this season at the club. Then Just Ben has asked, Origin front row Smokies. Because I guess the forwards for Origin, they're not really, especially for the Blues anyway, I'm assuming this is for the Blues, they're not really that cemented. So Tom Hazelton, I think, he's been thrown up as a Smoky. I'd like to see him have a bit more experience in the front row. I feel like he probably could get a little bit swallowed up by Origin. Josh Curran, honestly, his work rate and work ethic has been sensational. Spencer Leniu is another guy. I think a lot of people at the start of the season had him in their Origin sides. The fact he hasn't played for obvious reasons has been one that people sort of dismissed him a little bit. So that's why Spencer Leniu isn't being talked as much about. But I think if he has a big 3 weeks leading into a selection, then he definitely, his name could probably be tossed up. Daryl May, I'd probably like to see a little bit more out of. Just, I don't know, probably a bit raw. Tanila Paseka, he's certainly one that's put his name up. Again, if he has another big month of footy, can definitely put his be a shout there. Even a guy honestly the last few weeks, Jack DeBellin has been really, really good. And we've seen him in Origin before. You pick him, he's going to be able to do for you. But yeah, I'm sort of on one aspect. I'm definitely glad I'm not picking the Blues side because there's 60 players that could get into that team. It's pretty nuts. And that's even with all the injuries. Now, James Hogues 1512 asks, after the Sharks Melbourne win, does that prove that we should start worrying about them? And I assume that in terms of premiership contenders. And yeah, pretty much. Beating the Storm in Melbourne is always a massive feat, no matter who you are and that sort of thing. But I think we've seen for a long time that the Sharks have absolutely been able to, a couple of seasons, since Craig Fitzgibbon's been there. We've seen that the Sharks have been able to give it to the not-so-good teams and then not fare well against the good teams. That seems to have changed so far this season. I will see how it goes this weekend against the Roosters. The Storm was their big test. And yes, they didn't have Nico, but the Storm did have a few outs as well. And that's not to take away from the Sharks win at all, because they still had some great players on the field, the Storm, and still so hard to beat in Melbourne. However, this week, they've got the Roosters, who are in red-hot form. If there was a power rankings thing, I'd probably have these two teams 1 and 2 at the moment. So, yeah, really interested to see how the Sharkies go against the Roosters. I honestly think that even if they lose, if it's a very close game against the Roosters and they can limit their attack and show some defensive nous and prowess, then I do think that the Sharkies are certainly a premiership contender for this season. And then Rome_William7 has asked, could I see Trey Fuller playing as a 14? I definitely could. I think he's that kind of guy that when you've got probably all your forwards back, so Tommy Flegler's back in there, and you can sort of shore up the middle a bit more defensively and protect him a little bit in that front line, and then just in attack, let him go, do whatever he wants. Imagine him and Hammer just playing backyard footy together, basically. It'd be such a good watch. Isaiah Katoa's got heaps of flair, but also the thing with Katoa, he's quite good at his organisation skills and stuff as well. To go back to the Origin Smoky question, not necessarily front rower, but Isaiah Katoa, Origin Smoky for me, wouldn't mind him sitting getting a crack. But yeah, I'd love to see Trey Fuller come on when the defenses are tired, just nipping around the middle. There would be nothing I would hate more as a big body in the NRL who's just at 30 minutes of just working their ass off, and then Trey Fuller's just coming out nipping around with the ball. You'd get nowhere near him. And then Harvey.C_ says, who is my second team? who's my least favourite team. Now, second team, there's probably a couple to choose from. I think growing up was always Manly because my dad is a Manly fan, so watched a lot of Manly games, knew a lot about Manly. Probably my second team after the Dragons. Also, grew up, loved watching Sean Johnson play football. And just the Warriors play like a style of footy in like that mid 2010s kind of time. Like when they made the grand final, 2012, 2011, like that kind of team. I loved watching them play. So the Warriors were certainly like up there as probably my like another really favorite team. But as I've got older, a lot of my close friends are Knights fans, so pay a bit more close attention to them and love the way they play footy. Love Kalen Ponga, like his style of footy, that sort of thing. Went and watched the Knights versus the Sharks at McDonald Jones Stadium end of last season, during the 10 in a row run. Sick. Like, awesome atmosphere, great buzz around like the club, that sort of thing. So that does sort of make you fall in love with the Knights a little bit. And look, right this second, I probably would say, probably wouldn't have a second favourite team to be honest, but if I had to choose, it would probably be the Newcastle Knights. Least favourite team growing up was the Storm because they were just too good. Hated them. But now, not really anyone. I think sometimes, like, you sort of, like, in the content game anyway, I try to be quite impartial and give flowers to every single team, and try not to hate on a certain club or anything at any one time. So, yeah, I think when you do this kind of thing, if you hate a certain team, it's sort of, I don't know, it doesn't really just sit right with me. Like, obviously, there's going to be more teams that you just naturally bias and favouritize and sort of don't like as much. But for me, if I had to pick a team that I don't like the most, honestly, couldn't say one. I know it's a very Fence City answer and you want a clip out of it, but no, not for me. And then Dex Phelps 66 says, does Hutcho deserve to be in the team at the Dogs? Now, I know a lot of Bulldogs fans can't stand Drew Hutchinson. They think that they would have won a lot more games without him there in the team so far this season. And look, that might be true, but we'll never know. I think like Toby Sexton, he's probably, honestly for me, around the same level as Drew Hutchinson. I don't think putting him into the team gets you that much more product out of it. I know he's been in good form in New South Wales Cup, but I think if you had Drew Hutchinson down there, you're probably putting up similar numbers. I think Hutchinson just has that a bit more direction to him. I know, like I like to say, a bit more control over the game, and some of his fifth tackle options have been poor. I understand that, especially in that Melbourne game, like down in Melbourne. Probably could have won that with a couple different fifth tackle options, but I think Toby Sexton, he's still only young. Drew Hutchinson's been around the block a little bit more, and with the team that you currently have, I do think that Drew Hutchinson probably is the best option you have there. Maybe externally, if you brought in another sort of higher up halfback, I'm not sure whether Bulldogs have the cap or anything for that, but I think for now, Drew Hutchinson probably would be my 7 at the Bulldogs. I think actually you got Mitch Woods coming through the ranks. I think if you can hold out for another couple of years with Drew Hutchinson, then he'll come in and be a star. Also, Billy Hayward, I believe, young kid has come off the bench a few times. I'm not sure whether he's a dummy half or a halfback, but I feel like he's had a bit of background playing halfback, so I think he could definitely be one of the Bulldogs could have a look at some stage, especially like if the form does sort of drop off a little bit towards the end of the season and finals footy isn't in the equation for the Doggies. I reckon why not give both those guys, Mitchell Woods and Bailey Hayward, a crack in the 7 and just see how they go. Give them a taste of first grade and let them like crave for that and work really hard to get back into the first grade team. So that'll do us. Another episode of the Trademark Sports Podcast. If you've made it this far, leave a thumbs up. Type in Abracadabra Round into the comments. And then if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts and it's your first time listening and you liked it, give it a 5-star rating. And basically, we'll see you on the flip side of Magic Round. Don't forget to Scotty drink your water and Brabham do your best.